honestly, just listening to you guys and hearing what you just said, from the issuance of a gag order, which we'll get to in a second, which is illegal, okay, to the statements, if true, that were made by this judge, in a court proceeding that has nothing to do with Wendy's career. Moreover, that were made in front of Wendy Williams. If true, that is outrageous because this judge, one, she's not in the entertainment industry, so I don't know where she would get off opining about that and why that's even relevant to her role as a judge, who's basically a judge of the law, and in this case, judge of the facts. And why she's not a neurologist either. I mean, clearly, and someone who should be opining on whether Wendy Williams has the capability to get better and become but I will tell you, I've spent time with Wendy this week, and I've spoken to Wendy, Harvey, as you have, I'd say hundreds of hours over the last several months. And I will tell you, she's as Wendy Williams as she was 10 years ago. She's as Wendy Williams as she was when she had one of the best shows in television. She's absolutely capable of hosting a talk show or doing whatever she wants to do. I mean, she is there. She's got her wherewithal. And for someone to say that her career is over when they're a judge judging her is really a display of a bias. If I were her lawyer yesterday in that court proceeding and she'd said that judge in front of my client, I would have stood up there with fury. And I would have said, first of all, I would have objected to that statement because it's totally improper coming from the court, totally improper. But moreover, it's made without a basis in knowledge, and it's made without a medical background and without education. And so I would have lost my mind, honestly, if that had been said to my client or in my client's presence if I were there yesterday. That's disgusting. The issuance of gag orders prohibiting participants in judicial proceedings from speaking to the public or the press about those proceedings is a form of what's known as prior restraint, presumptively invalid under the First Amendment and frequently held to be unconstitutional by lower courts, including the Second Circuit, which is the court that is in New York. It is beyond pale that you can't just issue a broad gag order and just say, that's what we're doing here. So it's prior restraint on constitutionally protected expression. And there's been so many cases on this. And look, gag orders I guess, technically were issued and could be deemed valid in cases where, like, witnesses' lives were perhaps at risk in organized crime cases or cartel cases where you had, the name of a witness who maybe was at risk or something of that effect, or where you really could hinder an impartial jury, the right to a fair and impartial jury. And again, that's a stretch too. And I just had that in the ASAP Rocky trial. Okay, the judge initially issued a gag order in our trial and then rescinded it because he said it is illegal, it's constitutionally invalid. Okay, in that trial, and that was with the jury. That was with the jury. Here, there's no jury. This judge is the fact finder. So, what is she going to get? Influenced by a statement made out of court? Of course not. It's to punish. It's really to intimidate litigants and their lawyers. And to me, it's outrageous. There should not be a gag order. If I were in that case, I would be fighting tooth and nail, and I'd be appealing any issuance of a gag order. Prior restraint on constitutionally protected expression is illegal. It's illegal, and it normally carries a heavy presumption against constitutional validity. Honestly, I lay awake at night thinking, like, trying to come up with an answer. And I don't know if there's the Guardian has a financial motivation, is financially motivated by this. I don't know if there's, now there's a line drawn in the sand, so to speak, and we're going to show each other who's the boss type of thing. I just don't understand it. But it is just wrong. It's just wrong. And I hope and pray I get into that guardianship case. Look, I respect the court, I respect the judges, and I respect the roles of a judge, but I do not and will not be bullied by anyone, including a judge who's going to impose gag orders that aren't permissible, who's going to make threats to litigants that's not my gig. I don't really go with that, and I'm respectful, and I've never had a disciplinary complaint against me. That's ever, and so I will, I know where the boundaries are, but also I'm not afraid to break some china if necessary. And this case is disgusting, just to be honest with you. I mean, I'm just really disgusted by this case. This poor woman, and I've spoken to her, and she's handling it as well as anyone could handle it. I'd be honest with you. I'd be losing my mind if I were being held. Really, it's over a year. She's in a place where she can't leave. I mean, it's insane to me. It really is insane, and it's sad. It's sad, and so something has to be done. I'm not leaving her side until she's out of there. I promise you that.